Alright there guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Quintessential Quintuplets, a deeper look. The series where we give each quintuplet her own individual video to give a full and detailed analysis of how they act as characters and around Futuro. Right then, we've covered Itsuki in the first video. Then we took a look at Nino. Then we had a gander at Miku. Then we had a look at Yotsuba, which means there's only one more quintuplet left, the youngest, sister number 5, the cute and motivated Itsuki Nakano. Now then, Itsuki is the first quintuplet Futuro meets in the show, and his first interaction with her is thinking, what are you? Are you rich? You've just dropped a 1k yen on lunch. And then proceeds by essentially calling her fat by saying, you order too much and you'll gain weight. Only to find out the same day that he's tutoring a family called Nakano. The next day, Itsuki introduces herself as Itsuki Nakano, and Futuro's thinking, oh, why did I do that? Why, of all people, did I have to insult her yesterday? Tries to reconcile with Itsuki, and it doesn't work. So he follows the quintuplets home, finally gets to Itsuki to tell her, I am your tutor. And Itsuki, being the stubborn girl that she is like, no, I'm not having it. Is there really no other tutor available? Well, no, there isn't. That's why Futuro got picked. So Futuro and Itsuki's interactions in the beginning are pretty much very cold to each other. Futuro's trying to get along with the quintuplets, but Itsuki's having none of it. So she ends up quite a lot of the time going off to study on her own without Futuro being there. And she always makes gestures at him as if, I don't like you at all. So when Nino drugs Futuro in the very first episode of the show, Itsuki is the one who gets Futuro home in the taxi and then ends up having dinner with his family because Raiha shot her with a cuteness overload gun, essentially, that she just couldn't refuse. Then we have the scene where Itsuki enters Futuro's house to give him his pay, of which he's like, holy crap, I ain't seen that much money, like, ever. So Futuro asks, Raiha, what do you want to do with the money? So Raiha, Futuro, and Itsuki all end up going to the arcade together, like like a little family, which includes playing the crane game, the coin game, air hockey, and even going into the photo booth, of which Futuro and Itsuki don't actually want to be there. Because if you looked at them, people would assume Futuro is the father, Itsuki is the mother, and Rai is the daughter, when actually they're brother, sister, and friend. And oh my god, how rude of me. I didn't even do the segment of whose voice is Itsuki. Damn, that's really bad on me. Itsuki is voiced by Inori Minase, who you may know better as Rem from ReZero, or Fuku from Demon Slayer Mugen Train. Wow, I can't believe I didn't do that at the start, but I made sure to remember to do it. Then we get to the fireworks festival, where Itsuki has changed her hairstyle, and Futuro saying, it's hard enough to tell you apart already. Don't go changing your hair around. And Itsuki's like, hang on, who do you think you are to tell me that? Although there is a scene in the fireworks festival that I think's a bit stupid, where Ichika is given a bunch of free food, but Itsuki isn't. When they have the same face. And let's be honest. If you had to rate Itsuki versus Ichika on cuteness scale, Itsuki wins that by an absolute landslide. Although there is quite a funny scene in the fight at the fireworks festival, where Futaro's looking for all the quintuplets to get them together so they can watch the fireworks together. He finds Itsuki, calls for her, she turns around thinking it's one of her sisters, and then she sees it's Futaro and she's thinking, my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. Then we have the funny little scene where Ichika and Nino change Itsuki's hair around to make it look like Miku's. After Futaro stayed the night and slept in Miku's bed, Miku forgot he was there and ended up sleeping with him, and neither of them knew they were sleeping together. So when Futaro opens the door and sees Itsuki with Miku's hairstyle, he's very confused. And also, that's probably the cutest look Itsuki ever had. Miku's hairstyle with Itsuki, like, that's perfection. Especially because long red hair is, like, one of the best features a girl can have, in my opinion. So then we get to where the part where Miku feeds Futaro too many croquettes to where she makes him ill. Yotsuba has her confession, but before that, she tries to convince Itsuki and Nino not to leave the house. Of which Yotsuba says, maybe you could hold his hand to make him feel better. That's what Mom did when we were ill. So Itsuki is putting her hand really close to Futaro's and it's like, come on, just do it. Just grab his hand, I can't do it. She's too stubborn. Itsuki is too stubborn, she cannot grab Futaro's hand. And then, of course, Nino slips on the ketchup bottle and drops right on top of Futaro, realising, oh, he's actually fine. So they leave. Itsuki is quite specifically funny in the Operation Doppelganger scene when she's saying Ohayo gozaimasu because she doesn't want to. Miku and Ichika were fine, but Nino and Itsuki really weren't when they said it. And Futaro is crapping himself for this exam because Itsuki had her dad talk to Futaro and told him that if any one of my daughters fail this exam, you're fired. So Futaro's crapping himself, gets into an argument with Itsuki, and the two of them fall out. But luckily for Futaro, Nino saves his ass by saying that the quintuplets avoided failing all 5 subjects. Technically, she wasn't lying because all 5 quintuplets each passed a different subject. So you take those out of context, technically all 5 subjects that were on the exam were passed. Just not by every quintuplet, they only passed 1 each. And then we come to the end of season 1, where Itsuki catches Ichika over the top of Futaro thinking, what's she doing? Then later on, Itsuki ends up disguising as Ichika, making everyone believe that she is Ichika, including the other quintuplets. So they go looking for who they think is Itsuki, whereas Futaro kind of figured out that Itsuki is actually the one pretending to be Ichika. The two of them get on those little stair lifts up the mountain, and Futaro pulls off Itsuki's pulls down Itsuki's hood, revealing that it's actually her because the way he figured it out was maybe that's Itsuki down there. And Itsuki says maybe, even though it was a guy, proving because Itsuki doesn't have great eyesight. Only for Futaro to then, of course, fall unconscious on Itsuki, of which she thought he was being a bit forward, until she realised what he was actually doing. And then, just like the other 4 quintuplets, as the campfire ritual comes to a close, all 5 of them are holding on to Futaro's hand. And that concludes Season 1. For Season 2, Futaro is reminiscing about when he met Reina when he was a kid, aka the girl in the photo, which we later found out was Yotsuba. When Itsuki enters the hospital room that Futaro is in, he for a second thinks that she is Reina, only then to realise it's Itsuki. So he tells her the story of how he met Reina all that time ago. Even if his story involves Earth getting it blown up, which I'm pretty sure that never happened, but Futaro doesn't really want to tell Itsuki what's going on. Instead, she asks him the question, why do you study? And he says, because that's my job as a student. But Itsuki is not having any of that. She's like, I'll keep staring at you until you give me the answer. So Futaro says, then I'll keep staring at you until you leave. Only for 2 nurses to walk past the room and say how cute, and the 2 of them then look away from each other. Then, once Futaro is out of the hospital, we get to the infamous Itsuki slaps Nino scene, where Nino's being bitchier than usual and slaps a bunch of paper out of Futaro's hand. As Miku goes to pick it up, Itsuki walks up to Nino and just bitch slaps her. And Nino's thinking, excuse me? So she slaps her back. And then the 2 of them leave. Nino goes to a luxury hotel, Itsuki goes to Futaro's house. We all know who got the better end of the stick. And yes, I did say that in the Nino video, but it's still relevant this time round as well. So Itsuki ends up at Futaro's house and lives with him for a few days, as they try to get Nino to come around. The 2 of them go for a walk late at night to talk about how they're going to sort all of this out. Of which the way Itsuki and Nino actually end up making up is quite funny, because we have Yotsuba, who will not leave the track team, so Futaro gets Itsuki to pretend to be Yotsuba and says she wants to leave the team. But the leader of the track team was able to see that Itsuki and Yotsuba are not the same person. So it failed. So Nino ended up having to come in clutch and do it instead. And then Itsuki and Nino finally make up. So then Itsuki decides to become independent this time around by trying to become a tutor of her own who will study and teach the same way Futaro does. And as she goes to her mother's grave on the 14th of every month, she ends up meeting a woman called Shimono-san, who for a second mistaked Itsuki for the quintuplet's mother, as she was actually a student of Itsuki's mom, and ended up becoming a teacher because of it. And Itsuki, of course, does the same thing. When she hears about Shimono-san telling her stories about what Itsuki's mom was like when she was a teacher. And that's what makes Itsuki's mind up to become more independent, and she then drops out of being part of Futaro's tutoring as she studies by herself. Then we have the Hot Springs episode where Itsuki herself doesn't actually do that much. Despite despite she, along with the rest of the quintuplets, all look like Itsuki, Itsuki herself doesn't actually do very much. She's just the mystery. She's a mystery of the Hot Springs because everybody looks like her. As Futaro is trying to figure out which Itsuki was talking to him the night before, so the actual Itsuki has to just BS to her dad a lot for however long, so Futaro can sneak past. Then we get to the Kyoto trip, where Itsuki finally reveals to us that the girl in the photo from 6 years ago was actually Yotsuba. Now, some people don't like that. Personally, I actually really do like it, because I think the entire second season of the show was hinting that Itsuki was the girl in the photo the entire time. And then, when it's finally revealed who it is, it's the one girl you probably would have never expected it to be. That it's actually Yotsuba. So yeah, a lot of people don't like that. Personally, I think that was a really smart way of revealing it. Make your viewers and readers think it's one quintuplet the entire time, only to then reveal it's actually a different one. During the Kyoto trip, not much happens for Itsuki apart from the questionable underwear she bought. It happens to come in clutch that she's able to give to Miku after Miku's other clothing gets wet when Nino knocks Futaro into her. Then, Itsuki is thanked by Miku later on, and the only other thing Itsuki does is hold Futaro over a very high temple, questioning his manhood, because he's like, could you stop tugging me? We might both fall and die. And then they have a picture taken together by Yotsuba. And that's really all we have for Itsuki. She's stubborn, she's very cute. I love her voice, thanks to the incredible talent of Inori Minase. And she's also the only quintuplet in the entire show that never falls in love with Futaro. She's the only one that doesn't. Instead, she admires him rather than has feelings for him. That's the difference between her and the rest of them. Which is what makes her a little bit more unique from the other four. So, why did I even make this series? Well, I've got a few reasons. The first one, I've explained at the start of every single video in this series, because I want to give each quintuplet her own individual video to give a better analysis of, as I only spoke about each quintuplet for 3 minutes on average in my quintuplets ranking video I made last year, of which all 5 of these videos in this series are sequel videos to that one. Number 2 is because I actually just love the quintuplets. I love this show. And get ready for this one. The Quintessential Quintuplets over the past year and a half, really, has become my favourite anime of all time. Yeah, it's overtaken Dragon Ball. Something I said that would probably never happen has happened. This show has managed to eclipse that. And because this series was also a way to build up to the Quintessential Quintuplets movie, which officially has released in Japan today, May 20th. And all 5 dates I've uploaded these videos on are special. January 5th for Ichika, there's 5 quintuplets and she's the number 1, and that's the first month of the year. February 14th, Valentine's Day, quite obvious. Romance, love, Valentine's Day, it works out perfectly. 19th of March for Miku, it's because it's the 1 year anniversary from my first ever quintuplets video when I talked about the first season of the show. The 19th of April for Yotsuba, because it's the 1 year anniversary of this channel hitting 100 subscribers except for the second time, and it was the official announcement of the Quintessential Quintuplets movie back that date. And of course today, May 20th, the Quintessential Quintuplets movie itself has officially released in Japanese cinemas. Thank you so much for watching this video and all the other Quintuplets videos I've made this year. Thoroughly enjoyed them. There's more Quintuplets content coming in the future before I get to see the movie, since it's only in Japan right now. It's not in any other country in the world. So who knows when we'll actually get to see it over here in the West. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and until next time, catch you later.